Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I hope this video finds you well. Got 3 booster packs to open for today. It's Thursday, all part of our pre-release to release week. Booster pack openings. Let's go over the cards we've gotten out of the previous packs. Lots of green, lots and lots of green cards, including 2 Gia's Revenge, both in the same pack. That's gotta be some kind of a fun thing. 2 Despoilers of Souls, a Kothafed Soul Hoarder. We've got Orbs of Warding, foil rare, Yavimaya Coast, Willbreaker, and an emblem for Chandra. So, let's see what we get out of these packs. My cats were going to be joining me, but I had to close the door. They're out in the hallway. This room does not have any cats in it right now because they started jumping onto the table and knocking things over. They're all fine, they're safe, they've got lots of food to eat. They're perfectly fine. Let's see. So far so good. Just some interesting comments. Let's see. I think I might actually have this a little bit reversed. Let's see how it's reverse Wooburg right there. Undead Servant. I like this card. 4 mana for 3/2, zombie. When it enters the battlefield, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield for each card named Undead Servant in your graveyard. Works extremely well with a delve deck that doesn't matter. You could just put the creature cards back into your graveyard and then, or just put them into your graveyard from your library. Just mill yourself and then play this to get a bunch of tokens suddenly. And there's a Zombie Lord card that was printed in Tarkir block that's really, really good. So yeah, that might be a decent strategy. In limited, might be a decent strategy, and if you were to make your own cube, that kind of a card would be a lot of fun as long as you have extra copies of those available. Actually, I don't hear of many people not making a single. I mean, most people make singleton cubes where it's only one of certain types of cards, and I understand that, but I don't think it's as fun. You should be playing copies of things because it's entirely possible in a draft situation for somebody to draft 6 of a common card. And while I realize it's, might deplete the number of options for other booster packs or simulated booster packs, it's still fun to be able to put together a several card strategy in commons. Same with uncommons. I think that draft cubes should have like 2 or 3 of certain types of uncommon cards because everybody might want to play it or everybody might think they have a strategy for it and put it in their deck. And it just increases the amount of enjoyment you can get. Let's see, Nissa's Pilgrimage. I like this card as well. Works very well with Zendikar's Royal effect. We got that in a previous pack. 2 and 1 green. Search your library for up to 2 basic force cards. Reveal those cards. Put 1 onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Spell Mastery. If there are 2 or more instant and/or sorcery cards in your graveyard, search your library for up to 3 basic forest cards instead of 2. They included basic forest for a reason. Because there might be a non-basic type of forest card printed in Battle for Zendikar. There are other types of forest that have been printed recently or not very recently, but that is a recurring theme. So I understand that they have to put the basic name on there. Obviously, Forest Dryad is or Dryad Arbor, sorry. Dryad Arbor is a really good card, and here, I've got one right here. Technically a forest, but it's not a basic forest, and that's why they have to differentiate that. But yeah, actually there's a lot of interesting things that this set talks about that that means you've got things coming up that aren't necessarily in Battle for Zendikar, because think about it, the creatures that put in Thopter tokens would be incredibly good in a set with a Metalcraft type of effect, and if we're going with the right rotation after Battle for Zendikar or after Worldwake, it should be the same amount of time as Scars of Mirrodin, which was from original Mirrodin block. And of course, Alara block was kind of referenced from Khans of Tarkir. So Tarkir block had the reverse shards or wedges, kind of like how Alara block had the shards. And then we had Worldwake, which is what we're having with Battle for Zendikar. And I think the following set should be an artifact set of New Phyrexia to see what's going on with Phyrexia, or New Phyrexia. And I think that's why we have these cards that put these tokens, these artifact token cards, because they would be very, very powerful in that type of a set, but of course they will completely be rotated out by the time the new Phyrexia, Scars of Mirrodin type of block will be playable. And it's kind of like looking at something, it's looking at the void space, looking at something that's not there intentionally. So you can look at these cards that are being playable right now in Standard and realize they're not going to be playable in Standard when artifacts are going to be really, really powerful. Just something to think about. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Suppression Bonds. Good card. In my last video I talked about it. Veteran Sidearm. Equip creature gets +1/+1. So it's 3 mana, 2 to get out and 1 to equip, and then you can repeatedly equip it. It's actually not bad. You can look at it like play the Undead Servant for a 3/1 black, for a 3/2, pay the extra 1 colorless mana to give it +1/+1, making it a 4/3 for 5. 5 for 4/3 because of the Sidearm being equipped to it. That's not that bad, honestly. Yoked Ox paying a 1/1 white to make a 1/5 for the same reason. It's, you know, you have that cover cost of 2, and then you could just pay the 1 mana to essentially increase the next creature you're going to play. It's honestly not that bad a card. It's not a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a living weapon type of card. Like, well, what I'm trying to say is, in Limited, this isn't too bad. And then Sphinx's Tutelage. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. If they're both non-land cards that share a color, repeat this process. Kind of like the Grindstone effect. If you could remove the lands from your opponent's library, this would be good. This might actually, if a Sadistic Sacrament type of card gets reprinted in Battle for Zendikar, this could become a good card because you just start getting rid of your opponent's lands. If they're playing any kind of a monocolor or multicolor hybrid effects, because it's if they share a color, then what you do is you just start getting rid of their lands out of their library and mill them. Yeah, that's the thing. Clash of Wills. Counter target spell unless its controller pays X. You know, it's a new version of, you know, the Spell Blast and Power Sync type of card. Sigiled Starfish, and then a Gideon's Phalanx. I like Sigiled Starfish. It's a neat effect. This works in the blue-green Assault Formation deck, obviously. And it also works in red, blue, green for that one creature that gets +2/+0 whenever you scry. Just for an extra thought. Gideon's Phalanx, though. 4 white knight creature tokens on the battlefield. Spell Mastery. If there are 2 or more instant and/or sorcery cards in your graveyard, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. 7 mana instant. So if you're playing control, if your opponent didn't do anything, you didn't have to counter anything during their end step, you just flash this in and put 4 white knight tokens into play. Then on your turn, you can do Dictate of Heliod and have 4/4/4 vigilance creatures. Of course, you can do this in response to another effect, because if your opponent casts something that would destroy all of your creatures, you can flash this, and then because you have Spell Mastery, you can use it to give all your creatures indestructible until end of turn. So it has its uses. There's multiple things going on here that you can use. And I've already talked 8.5 minutes. Let's get through the next 2 boosters. My gosh. Sorry, I'm very passionate about game design and how they're working out what you do and what you don't do with packs and with the cards and with how things are going to be played. Ringwarden Owl, yeah. Bellows Lizard. Jiraga Invocation. Okay, I have to stop and talk about this one. Each creature you control gets +3/+3 until end of turn and must be blocked this turn if able. It's 6 mana. Gives all your creatures +3/+3, and that means creatures like with 1/1 tokens or even 0/1 tokens, they become 3/4s, they become 4/4s, and they have to be blocked. So if your opponent has any untapped creatures with vigilance or flying or any reason like that, they have to block your creatures. So swing out with your biggest creatures, they have to block, and they're going to lose their creatures. So this is essentially a green version of, not Wrath of God, but kind of a Day of Judgment effect, because they have to block. They absolutely have to block, and that's why this is actually a really, really good card. It forces your opponent to lose their creatures, and that's why I have to stop and talk about how good that card is. Scab Goliath. Interesting. Works in the new Salt Formation deck. Yay! Got a Foundry of the Consuls. Comes into play untapped, non-basic land, taps for colorless, and you can pay 5 and tap, sacrifice Foundry of the Consuls, put 2 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. This goes into the cycle with cards like Gargoyle Castle and things like that, because it's a sacrifice effect to get the token, and you get a creature out of a land. It's not a spell. It can be stifled, it can be trick bound, but it's still a really cool effect that you get a land that taps for any color or colorless. It doesn't come into play tapped, and you can turn it into creatures. In this case, you can turn it into 2 creatures, and in green, you could play this, immediately put it out with 5 mana, 5 other mana, put out 2 colorless creatures, and then pump them up with some other effect before you attack with them. Or on your opponent's turn, when they swing out and they think you don't have blockers, you pay 5, sacrifice the land, put out 2 tokens to block with, and that kind of changes the game a little bit. I love this card. I hope I get a foil one of these eventually, but let's see what our we're going to have a foil in the pack, but let's see what our rare is. Archangel of Tithes. Hey, very nice. Works very well with Devotion, not necessarily with Heliod, yes, but I don't like Heliod. 4 mana, 3/5, flying. As long as Archangel of Tithes is untapped, creatures can't attack you or Planeswalker you control unless their controller pays 1 colorless mana for each of those creatures, which is the Ghostly Prison Propaganda effect. As long as Archangel of Tithes is attacking, creatures can't block unless their controller pays 1 colorless mana for each of those creatures, which is, oddly enough, a red effect. So this is a interesting card that very, very, very slightly bends the color pie just a little bit. Although white has become the tax effect, usually red has the ability to force things, or to keep things from blocking. So Archangel of Tithes, that's pretty cool. We got ourselves a mythic rare out of the pack. Not bad. And let's see what our land card is. Forest. Nice. Our foil is, whoa! Battlefield Forge. Nice! A foil Battlefield Forge. I think this is, yeah, it's the original artwork too. Nice. Very nice. That's a cool foil. Wow, let's see what the third pack has to do. A Goblin Token. Let's see what the third pack has for us. Keep getting foils. Catacomb Slug. Subterranean Scout. Auramancer. Touch of Moonglove. Caustic Caterpillar. Send to Sleep. Nantaku Husk. Bellows Lizard. Leaf Gilder. Topan Freeblade. Ravaging Blaze. I've talked about it before. It's a decent card. Blood Cursed Knight. Neat because it becomes a 4/3 for 3 mana, and it has lifelink. It's a vampire and a knight. It works with a lot of different tribal effects. Skyraker Giant. And then Herald of the Pantheon. Wow. The Giant's neat. 4 mana, 4/3 reach. Red doesn't often get reach, but Herald of the Pantheon. 2 mana for 2/2. Centaur Shaman. Enchantment spells cost you 1 colorless less to cast. That includes bestow creatures and enchantment creature spells. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain 1 life. Wow, this is actually a really cool card. This works in a lot of different deck types. But I think I'm going to build a green, white, red Marath deck for land destruction, and it's going to have bestow type effects. Let's see, I've talked for 13 minutes about these 3 packs. Please forgive me for being so passionate about these cards. But Herald of the Pantheon, Archangel of Tithes, Gideon's Phalanx, and a foil Battlefield Forge. Not bad. Not bad for these 3 packs. I'm having some really decent luck. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it gave you some stuff to think about, especially that how new Phyrexia is probably on the horizon with Battle for Zendikar, and how it's not going to be playable with the new Thopter tokens, unless they make a new effect for making Thopter tokens. But, yeah, and I hope you're having a wonderful morning, a wonderful afternoon, and a wonderful evening. I hope tomorrow is even better. Take care, everybody.